Whew. Hi, everyone. Thanks for responding. That's nice. This is probably like my fourth time on this stage, but my first time performing anything to do with Christianity. And I think it's really funny, actually, considering it's Sugar Club. But yeah, I like it. Dominate the space. Own it. Yes. So, sorry. So, have you heard? My name is Felicia. I go by the stage name Felispeaks. I'm a spoken word artist, and I talk about everything. That wasn't supposed to be funny. So, firstly, I want to say thank you to Greg and Rubicon for inviting me. I feel really honored. I feel really special. Thank you. Thank you so much. The first time he emailed me and we had a conversation about the event, he gave me 3 words. He said, story, activism, I'm going to sneak and look at my notes, and justice. And I thought, yes, this is right up my alley. So I'm going to perform 5 different poems, and I want you to think about them like 5 different stories. So these are 5 different stories, which are intricately connected. They're still linked, but and they all come from me, my core, my person, my being, and so on. But I suppose you can give them 5 different faces. Do you understand what I mean? My first poem is called, Is This the Way I Should Feel? And I wrote this during the campaign for the abortion campaign. And I remember that I put together about a 40-minute piece in Smock Alley. And it was basically about the unbinding of self. And not just the unbinding of self, but how we bind other people with our thoughts, with our expectations of them, what we think they should be like, shouldn't be like. And I thought about how I bind myself and how I bind other people. So I think that's what I'm trying to say is, keep that in mind throughout this piece. Is this the way I should feel? Is this the way I should feel watched, monitored, crystallized in double-darting eyeballs shooting soundlessly through a sea of bodies? You stare. Vision pooling in unfamiliar shades, hues of browns and blues, each screaming complicit, twinkling the maroon shade of guilt. When you broke into my home, did you bind too? Did you? Did you? Or did you just watch? When the rough rope gripped tore through my anatomy, was it by your hand or was your turn not that bad? See, you've been bound too. Your own tender rope marks ache, burning into a slow fury. Who yanks your leash? Is this the way I should feel? Is this the way I should feel still? Under one another's gaze, inching, shifting, squirming in untouched intervals. The reason I cannot begin a journey unraveled is not because I don't deserve freedom, but the wild woman cannot be contained. She cannot be folded into separated, easy to manage colors of being. Look confident, but act meek. Wear a skirt, but close your legs. Don't play hard to get, but for God's sakes, don't be a whore. Don't be a whore with sexual desires, not the sexual desires, not the sexual desires, not the mutual enjoyment of sex. How dare she not whimper and hide and cower? Doesn't she know that we are all watching? She knows you are all watching. I know you are all watching. Is this the way I should feel? Is this the way I should feel? Bound, by tufts of hair lengthened to identify my femininity. Sir, you call to this figure, as if to woman is to be roped into main-stroked fantasies of beach waves and bouncy curls, tight braids and ponytails. Untie my hair from my womb. Let me decide both their faith. Is this the way I should feel? Is this the way I should feel? This green island still has traces of human blood slithered around its coast. Its jagged borders smothered in its women's heavy sighs. Remembering the waves have not yet washed away, hundreds sacrificed, but you celebrate. We celebrate being given back bodies we don't know how to use. Is this the way I should feel? Empty. Don't dry my eyes. Let me spill, please. Release me. I am empty. Thank you. I apologize. Get your tissues. It's going to get heavier. I suppose my motive here, especially when I was compiling the poems, wasn't just to obviously make you cry. You will by the end of this. But just to think and to go through like layers of emotions and thought processes in like different categories of issues. So this one is about unbinding. The next one that I'm going to perform is called Unmending Lovers You Didn't Break. And this is based on mental health. And growing up in church, I know this is a huge thing. I don't know why, but we just don't like talking about it. I don't know what the problem is. And I think I've come to the conclusion that going to therapy is not going to dethrone Jesus in your life. Getting help is not going to push the Holy Spirit out of your system. Like, it just... I really need to tell my Nigerian mother this more than anything, but I think the double layer of having to deal with mental health struggles and being Nigerian, being Christian has been indescribable. And so I've gone through my own mental health struggles. I went through an intense bout of anxiety in my second year of college. Like, not just I'm biting my nails and I'm nervous. I was having like panic attacks, waking up out of my dreams, just vibrating, shaking, having flashbacks of things I thought I'd never remember anymore. And I was grateful I'm so grateful that I had a partner to help me through that. And being loved while you're going through a mental health struggle is interesting, but this poem is not even about that, because on the flip side, I got to be enlightened by loving somebody else going through a mental health struggle. That's a whole different experience. Because when you're being loved while you're going through your mental health struggle, it's you. You're thinking about you. You're thinking about how you get out of this. You're not even thinking about the weight of the love you're receiving. But when you are loving somebody that is going through a mental health struggle, ooh, because I nearly had to help him heal and help me heal watching that happen. Because there's nothing scarier than not being able to help somebody you love and having to trust them to get through it, and you just be there loving them, you know? So that's what this poem is about. Unmending Lovers You Didn't Break. 1. In the moment he shares a disturbing secret, wrap your arms around him and hug that space tightly. 2. I'm going to start again. I didn't forget the words. I just have to glance at them. Okay. 1, in the moment he tells you a disturbing secret, rock him back and forth in the comfort of your laps in an interlock embrace. Let him become an orphan in your bosom because that's where he was first dropped. 2, breathe love into his beginning, and if there is no beginning, emptiness looming in the place where cradles become crawls. Wrap your arms around that space tightly and mother it into existence. 3, carry him in all the ways his father didn't. Swing him between the broad of your back so he knows what support feels like. But don't hesitate to teach him how a woman like you should be loved. Kneel before the boy in his high eye, find the center in his pupils. Hold his hands and teach him the basics. I like flowers. 4, on days where his mind but tortures and pleases him, hold his head in your hands and kiss it. Quote all his favorite rap lyrics and sing this precious man to sleep, lullaby after lullaby. Don't let a thought escape him. Just be so present, they silence. 5, when happiness blurs into sadness and both consume the treasure you own, slow dance. Let him live out both with you around his limbs and a resting place in the crook of your neck. And when the song finds an end, start another dance all the way to happy thoughts. 1 step, 2 step, 3. 6, on days when he can't seem to stop talking and all his insides are aiming to exist outside his body, spend the whole day listening. Give him your ears and let him speak. Don't sew his lips shut with glares like the rest did. 7, when your lover doesn't want to exist at all, pray in the language of tears. Summon all the gods that you've ever heard of from the bottom of your stomach and wail. And when you are finished, walk with him to cliff's edge. Watch him jump. But trust, please trust, that love has taught him how to fly. Thank you. I saw someone do a, I know, I'm sorry. My third piece is called The Grief Poem because I ran out of creativity. And while I was writing this poem, I was trying to understand what grief was. It took me ages. It's not even that long. The poem isn't even that long. But I was wrestling with the idea of writing about an emotion I've barely experienced, which was grief. So I wrote it for a play that I performed in Dublin Fringe Festival, and part of it, y'all should come and see it next time it's on. But part of it was a grieving wife watching her husband die. After he had passed away, she had to grieve, and I was the voice for the mother that acted. And so it took me about a month and a half to pen this down because I said to myself, this is too strong an emotion to put into words, especially that I haven't felt it. But then my director said to me, she said, if you were grieving and if you were a wife and you were grieving your lover or your husband, what would be the first thing that you would think of? I'd be like, why did God let it happen? She said, that's the poem. And I said, oh damn, that's blasphemous. You know, like growing up, you just don't ask God questions. You don't be like, why did God let this happen? Why did God did this? Why did God do that? You sing your way through it. You praise your way through it. You do a praise break. And you get it going. You be all right. But I got into college and I started asking God a lot of questions and I got comfortable with that idea. And this poem, I guess, is as a result of that. So here goes. My God, you sleep. My eyes fail looking for my God, and you hide your face on this very day. Your ears fall deaf to my cries. The ruthless God provides no shelter in my only storm. Here lies the man of my youth, stained with wine. Before white hairs could cover his head, before love could even dry, before our children could make their own, before life had a chance to sag our skin, before our sight glazed over, before we had a chance to embrace in the dark of daylight, I prayed. I pray. Do I not pray? Do I not tell of the mercies you deny me? My God, you sleep. Thank you. I got 2 more poems and I'm out of your hair. I don't even have none, but I'm dish. Sorry, these corny jokes come out of me sometimes. So my next poem, I have 2 more poems. My next poem is called For Our Mothers. Again, I mentioned being Nigerian, being Christian, and growing up in Longford. Has anybody here been to Longford? Wow. What did you think of it? Every time I bring up Longford, people are just like, oh, you mean the town that you pass by on the Sligo train? I said, it's more than that. Jeez. We have our own Supermax. We have our own McDonald's. What are you talking about? We even got a Penny's. What? But yeah, so I grew up in Longford. I've been in Ireland for about 15 years now. Moved when I was about 8. You can work out my age. But so anyway, I grew up watching the progression of being Nigerian and my mom being a mother, being a wife, and not just my mom, but several other aunties. You know when you're Nigerian, you call everybody an auntie as long as they're older than you. That's just the thing. So watching aunties go through really crap marriages, and not just crap marriages, but marriages that they stay in and have to look good in, and have to kind of just, it's gonna be all right kind of way. And even just thinking about my church in Longford, it was overpopulated by women. It was like 80% women, and then children, a couple of uncles and daddies. But I just watched that and seeing how their marriages kind of crumbled, and they had to carry that on their backs. And everything was their fault in a way. It was their responsibility to kind of mend and fix and put it together. So this is what For Our Mothers is about. Excuse me. And Nick, I can't do this any longer. I cannot fold my arms and watch lonely wives wrap their head ties so large, filling it with confiscated feelings, hoping truths get knots and abound on Sunday mornings, covering tired dark eyes with white powder and red lipstick. My dear, it's not so bad. At least I look good. Continuing to wrap a parcel of clothing around their waist, linen and lace, concealing footprints above their navel. 5 weeks old. The baby hadn't fully formed yet. She shook her head and her traditional beads clanged without rhythm, joining the noisy depression within her. The car ride to church was the same every Sunday, replacing apologies for cheap compliments. My wife, you look so good today. Our mothers are dancing on Thanksgiving Sundays with bitter stories in their mouths, too afraid to spit it out, their knees darkened by the weight of prayer, reminding budding females in graduation gowns, my dear, you know you're not getting any younger. And when their daughters recognize new heart bruises, they reply with stern glares. And you know men are not to be trusted. Sighing. Because they remember when they had twinkles in their eyes at the first sign of love. Sighing. Because their twinkles have long yet faded, and you're the reminder. The reminder that maybe love can unravel the secrets she bundles in the privacy of clothing on Sunday morning. Sighing. Because twinkles have long yet faded. So for Mama's sake, find a love that will heal her through your smile. For Mama's sake, find a love that she never had. Thank you. I am totally over the time limit. But this is my last poem. Thanks, Greg. So this is my last poem. It's called Ragdoll. This poem is incredibly difficult to perform because of how personal it is. Jeez, now I have to pace myself. So, I was in, an abusive friendship with a guy friend of mine. I grew up very comfortable around men, very comfortable around males. I didn't think they were very special, you know? I'm a girl, you're a boy, whatever. So I've always been okay being really close friends with guys. But I think what I didn't learn growing up is that even though it's okay to be really good friends with guys being your best friends, I didn't realize how different we were. Does that make sense? I didn't realize how much difference there is in being a man and being a woman. And so I was in a really stressful place, especially with my family, things going on with my parents, me being in college. So I confided in this friendship. I put a lot of myself into this friendship, and it ended up being very, very manipulative. So thank goodness that's out of my life, and that was about 5 years ago. Fast forward, I wrote about these experiences and the sexual parts and the abusive parts, and I didn't realize how much healing I had to get through. Years later, I'm like, whoa, this is heavy. So about 3 years later, I wrote this piece, and a year after that, I actually did something about the issue. He was a guy in church. I didn't go to the same church as him, but he was a guy in church. He played piano for the choir. He was around women a lot. He was around the choir a lot. And a friend of mine visited me, and I just had an opportunity to kind of tell her about this issue. And so she made it her business to kind of get this news to the pastor, blah, blah, blah. Next minute, I knew the following weekend, I was invited into the pastor's office. So I went in, and I told him exactly what happened. Lo and behold, nothing was done. I was incredibly slut-shamed, or whatever the words may be. But I remember when the pastor looked at me and he was like, what do you want to get out of this? Like, why are you here? Why are you only speaking about it 5 years later? I said to him, I actually don't need this. Like, I'm not here because I need this particular meeting to heal me. I'm here because I want you to know the kind of person that is in your church and that is around women very often, and I don't want this to happen to anybody else. And I think that was really shocking for him, because he kind of looked at me like, oh, like, I don't want anything from this. I don't want an apology. I just want you to know what a member of your flock is capable of. And I was really proud of myself for that moment, because it was really hard, you know? So that's the background to this poem, Ragdoll. Okay. Ragdoll. Your black eyes shrunk, sat on your face like an oil spill. Drip stories your crooked smile couldn't swing. Snot-stained Bible pages and tear-torn hymn books wouldn't let the grim rip your life yet. You had decided that your mismatched soul was enough for now. The first time your phone gleamed with unrequested penis pictures. Your voice scattered with the anger of your father's gods. The man that once listened could no longer hear. held up shards of your past, ragdoll in the mirror. The second time you upset him, in the comfort of your kitchen amongst friends you teased, suddenly your little girl legs were lifted against the wall. Your eyes blurred as he mounted against your body, slipper in hand. He had to teach you a lesson. Ragdoll, you limbed in his hands. I bet you cannot recall the first time it took your voice, trapped it in the grip he snaked around your wrist, waist. When he ordered the use of your temple, your sound ceased. Little girl, ragdolls don't speak. But you already know that. Ragdoll, little girls take your form when nobody cares how they are played with. Your friend remembered you, looking for the oil spill in your eyes, cement in their place. You found the nerves in your hands to play with, till he reached out to grab parts like owned shares, more than a grab, more than a pull, more than a squeeze. Little girl, ragdoll is in the game, but you already know that. Little girl, ragdolls are swiped off supermarket shelves, scanned with an exchange to become property. You jumped out of his vehicle, slamming the door in this holy man's sin. Little girl, ragdoll is in the game, but you already know that. Ragdoll. Little girls don't have price tags. You finally learned that. Thank you.